The year is 1336. This is a period of recovery for Asia, as the Mongol invasions have ended. Local rulers have started slowly kicking out the Mongol ruling class from their status, or assimilating them into their native culture. We begin our story in Transoxiana in the Chagatai Khaganate, in what is now modern-day Uzbekistan, near Samarkand. Shujah ud-Din Timur was born in 1336, his last name meaning iron in his mother tongue. He was born into a minor impoverished noble family and had a fairly average life, until one day when him and his mates tried to rob a trade caravan and got shot in the leg and right hand, losing 2 fingers and badly injuring his leg after attempting to steal a single sheep. Timur would be crippled for life, and his mates accordingly said lol, and nicknamed him Timur the Lame, also known as Tamerlane, that would then be popularized in Europe. Over the years, Timur would rise through the ranks as a mercenary captain, and one day, when the Khaganate was at its most vulnerable from civil strife, plagues, and nomadic Uzbek invasion from the north, took control of the empire in 1363. A big factor in his success was his own massive brain, knowing over 9 languages like Persian, Arabic, Turkic, and having a knack for diplomacy, yet being illiterate, and made local warlords and chieftains bow down to him and him only. After a few years consolidating his power, the Timurid Empire would truly begin in 1370, as Timur would name himself Emir. Cool fact, Timurid Empire isn't actually how we would be naming it, but we should actually be calling it the Empire of Turan, because that's what Timur called it when he carved it out of a fucking mountain! Timur would rule for a stunning 35 years, and in that time he would be extremely energetic. He would conquer all of Persia in 1373, would go further west and conquer the shit out of the Caucasus in 1395, later he would completely blitz the Multan and Dipalpur of India in 1398, conquering as far as Delhi, where if the sources aren't exaggerating, when the Delhi Sultanate's leader challenged Timur to a pitched battle with over 300 elephants with poisoned tusks, I shit you not, his counter was 1,000 screaming camels on fire. And it worked! Jesus Christ. His last major conquest would be at the end of his reign in 1402, against one of the major rising powers of the Middle East, the Ottoman Empire. Heavy emphasis on rising, as Timur crushed them so badly he kept the Sultan himself in captivity for 3 years, until he died in chains. After these conquests, the Timurid Empire would become the predominant power of Islam, as they essentially annihilated any opposition. In his conquests, Timur would have either sacked or slaughtered entire cities who didn't immediately surrender to him. Essentially, he was a total war player who wanted to avoid public order penalties at all costs. The only people spared were the architects, writers, and other builders, who would be shipped to Samarkand, so Timur could build a great city that would be the center of Persian and Muslim culture and arts, as a shining beam of his greatness and power. The city would be in fact the center of what would be called the Timurid Renaissance, as Persian culture flourished into a new golden age. You know, 1,000 kilometers away from Persia. Timur had become one of the most influential figures in his lifetime, had killed millions to get his way, conquered thousands of kilometers, defeated hundreds of kingdoms who opposed him. What else could he ever ask for? Well, I'll tell you what he wanted. China! If he conquered that, it would be his magnum opus. He would prepare his armies for the task. With a few years and brilliant strategies, it would all go without a hitch. All would have fallen into place, as the great Emir would do everything to finish his life gloriously as Chinggis Khan's true successor. But then he died. Yeah, you just catched a cold and died. Yeah. Damn. Timur died in 1405, and because of this, it all just started to go downhill. Many states and provinces started seceding or refusing vassalage from the empire, because they didn't fear his successors as much as Timur. Most of these vassals were right though, as many Timurid rulers did nothing in response to any secessions. The only Timurid ruler of note after Timur's death was Shah Rukh, Timur's first son, who surprisingly was much more pacifist, opting for maintaining his already fragile dominion. From 1405 to 1447, he would make many reforms and financial decisions that helped the empire run smoothly. Sadly though, Shah Rukh would die in 1447. Even with all his efforts to stabilize the empire, the fall was inevitable. A tradition in Turkic culture was when a ruler died, his land would be partitioned by his sons. Shah Rukh's sons and other family members didn't want to partition the empire, but they didn't want to share it either, so civil strife ensued. In this turmoil, the empire would lose most of its territory, as Persia would be lost to the Safavids, and the Caucasus and Anatolia lost to nomads and the Ottomans. The final nail in the coffin was in 1507, as Uzbek migrations in Central Asia pretty much nuked the empire, as Herat and Samarkand were sacked and razed. The last vestiges of Timur's family would flee to India, as the family that was descendant of Timur would live on the newly established Mughal Empire, all the way into the 19th century until the Mughals were abolished by the British, ending the Timurids for good. Each empire has something to teach us in their existence, and the Timurids are a textbook example of one thing. You can conquer all the known world, defeat every army, and slaughter every man and woman to quell the many, but if you cannot maintain your power, then your life's work will have all been for nothing. Thank you for watching. If you like this video and want to see more mini documentaries like this, I recommend you like and subscribe, for this has been the untold history of the Timurid Empire.